Hi guys, it's your pal Dr. Sal again, and today we're taking a look at the drug Vyvanse, which is used for attention deficit disorder. If you're about to embark on taking this medication, it's very exciting, but what are the 5 most common side effects you may experience in the first 4 weeks of trying it? And what are some solutions we use in the real world to circumvent those problems? Let's take a look. Well, the manufacturer actually provided that information in a study of 358 persons, and they ran the study for 4 weeks. And that study is very instructive on what you can expect if you were to embark on therapy with this new ADHD drug. So to illustrate what you can expect, I'm going to use a circular frequency chart. So please note, this is not a pie chart, so it's not going to add up to 100% when I'm finished. So the first most common side effect that most people reported in a full 26%, so just over a quarter, so 26.5%, complained of a significant reduction in appetite. Now, despite that though, only 3% of people actually reported a net weight loss from it. But sometimes the reduction in appetite can be fairly significant, especially in kids who are still going through growth spurts. Sometimes this can lead to some stunting. But as we go through the side effects, at the conclusion, I'll go back around and look at solutions that we use in the real world to work around and skirt some of these problems. All right, the next big complaint in the first 4 weeks of use was a full quarter, and actually 25.7%, if you want to be fully accurate, percent of users complained of a dry mouth. Typically, this is not a deal breaker, however. I've never seen anyone that I've had to take off the medication specifically just because of a dry mouth. It's usually just a minor nuisance. And the next big one that we often see in approximately 20% of people is headaches. And sometimes the headaches can be quite a deal breaker. However, of note, buried within this recipe here, there was also about 13% of people taking a placebo, so taking a sugar pill, that also complain of headache. So headaches tend to be pretty ubiquitous across the spectrum of society, so it may really have very little to do with the drug itself causing the headaches. To me, the real incidence of headache was only about 7% if you subtract the people on sugar pills that still complain of having a headache. The next big one, 19%, 19.3 to be precise, of users complained of insomnia, which is not surprising considering that this class of drugs are psychostimulants. Then if we break this last little segment here into 2 little smaller guys here, there was about a 6% incidence, 5.9% incidence of increased anxiety. And again, that is not surprising considering that these are psychostimulants. So if you already had some latent degree of anxiety bubbling, this will tend to make it foment over. So those were the 5 most common complaints within the first 4 weeks of being on Vyvanse: reduction in appetite, dry mouth, increased anxiety, insomnia, headaches. Now, what's an approach to like a workaround or shortcut around some of these problems so you can get the benefit of the drug? So for appetite, one of the things we'll do is the majority of the appetite suppressant effect is obviously while the drug is at its serum maximum within your bloodstream. So one of the things we do is backload calories. So what that means is, instead of trying to front load or preload your calories, so in other words, there's this old saying about eat like a king for breakfast and a prince for lunch, blah, 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 and a pauper for supper. If you're on this medication, you actually do it in reverse. So you eat like a pauper at breakfast, a prince at lunch, and then at supper time when the drug is wearing off and your appetite starts to resurface, then you pig out and eat like a king. So that's bat loading. The other thing we'll sometimes suggest is through the day, just like a bodybuilder, is use high calorie smoothie drinks. Because they're very fast to intake, they're very high in calories. So typically you're looking at stuff like protein powder with a banana and some kind of smoothie mix. Blend it, you carry it to work or school, and you slurp it back during the day between meals, kind of like as a meal replacement or a meal supplement. For dry mouth, I won't go into that because, like I said, I've never seen that significant enough to act as a deal breaker. If it was that severe, you simply come off the drug, try a different one. Now, with moving around the circle here to headaches, that sometimes is a little more difficult to deal with because it has to do with the drug itself. So very often, if headaches are a significant barrier to use, I typically would just change the drug. I wouldn't keep going with it. There's so many others to choose from. I'd simply change it. There's no point taking headache medication to counteract the headaches from it. It's easier to just change it. Now, for insomnia, that is a real common complaint with a lot of users across the spectrum of the stimulant ADHD medicines. And because of that, we have several different approaches to fixing it. One is at bedtime, using a natural chemical that your own pineal gland produces to tell you it's beddy bye time, is taking melatonin as a supplement. The next thing is trying to take the drug early, like as soon as you wake up. You can't expect this drug is a long-acting drug, so you can't expect to take this at 2 in the afternoon and then expect to be able to sleep well at night. It's gonna spill over into your sleep cycle. So you try to take it as early in the morning as possible. And that usually will solve the problem. If the insomnia is really severe, another approach would be reducing the dose. So change the dose. Obviously, if it's bad enough, you could change the drug altogether. And I don't typically like doing this, but in a rare instance where nothing else was a suitable fit and it had to be Vyvanse, I might use a sleeping pill. So use a drug to counteract a drug. That's usually my least favorite option, however. Now, for anxiety that gets unmasked or exaggerated by being on this drug, we have approaches for that too. So one is, again, reduce the strength of the drug, change the drug, try a different one. And another thing we'll sometimes do is call stacking. We'll stack something else that works for anxiety to counteract the anxiety that's been unmasked by the drug. So typically for that, we use something called SSRIs. So that'd be stuff like sertraline, Zoloft, Prozac, all those kind of guys will counteract the effects of the anxiety. Again, my preference is not to have to use a drug to combat another drug. So typically I do this approach if the individual has a comorbid anxiety disorder to begin with. So it's not totally the fault of the Vyvanse, it's something that's intrinsic to the person. Otherwise, I usually like to try either a dose reduction or change into a different drug. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 5 most common side effects and some solutions to them. Overall, I've found it to be a pretty decent drug, gives good results, and the most common side effect you get is simply reduction in ADHD symptoms. Thank you for watching. I'll have more information for you in another week.
Thanks for watching. Get notified of new videos. Subscribe now.